Hi there, I'm John at John's Carnivorous Plants. This is my indoor nursery, and today we are going to talk about why growing sphagnum moss in your water trays is a bad idea for a new grower. So recently I've had somebody in the Discord have some issues with their plants, and then they started taking pictures showing them. And one of the things they had going on was sphagnum moss, like long fiber sphagnum moss, growing in their water tray for an aesthetic reason. If you are a new grower, do not do this, okay? If you've been growing any less than 5 years with your plants in tray watering setups, do not do this because you will have a whole host of issues that you would not otherwise. And what I mean by that, so the sphagnum moss, as it grows, so like I have multiple other videos about humic acid buildup and on how it can be harmful to carnivorous plants. Sphagnum moss by itself as a waste product produces humic acid. And the way it wicks it away is by using water sources nearby to basically physically remove it via capillary action, because it is not a vascular plant. So noting that, that means your water tray, if you have sphagnum moss growing in it, is going to be accumulating the humic acid from the sphagnum moss. And if you have peat moss in that water tray that's uptaking that water, that humic acid is more than likely going to start residing in that pot first off and start building up as the water level goes up and down, mainly because of the capillary action of the peat moss itself sucking up the water into the pot over time via evaporation off the top, and it's acting like a wick. That humic acid is going to build up inside that pot much more rapidly than it builds up inside the tray. So you will notice the tray water will be like a slight brown, but if you went to go flush out your pot, you'll get a really dark, nasty brown, mixture of water coming out. And it's generally speaking, that's most of the acid that has been accumulating in the pot. That's a big reason why I always suggest, like in some of my watering videos without going too much in depth, why you should top water tray watered plants every so often, mainly as a way to flush the nasty stuff down into the medium, as opposed to keeping it in the medium at the root level where it's going to be burning the plants and getting far too acidic for the plants. The other issue is that if you have long fiber sphagnum moss growing in your tray, it also makes other water quality issues much harder for you to detect. So the sphagnum moss is also going to, if you're not properly fertilizing your plants and you're getting a bunch of algae and whatnot, you should not have the sphagnum moss in there, because you need to figure out where the nitrogen's coming from. And before you ever have the sphagnum moss, you need to make sure that that nitrogen source is taken care of, because that also will build up over time in the pots and then eventually end up killing your plants. So the TLDR is that if you want to have sphagnum moss growing in a tray, you should not do that for several years. Get your conditions down pat. I'm not saying do it for a month and then think that you know everything. No. You need to do it for a few years, like just regular tray watering. Make sure you understand the mechanics of what's happening and the other issues and pitfalls that you're going to probably run into. Take care of those first, then you can start focusing more and more on the aesthetics. Now, if you're trying to do a terrarium or something like that, once again, also I suggest don't just go gung-ho with it. Start with a few species first and then slowly work your way up, because you're going to run into environmental issues that you otherwise would not recognize, because most of us don't spend time in bogs and swamp areas around, our homes. That's just the point blank truth of it. So no matter how familiar you think you are with a bog or swamp, you're not. They have very clean water. To prove the point to the person that inspired this video, I went out to the bog that's actually not too far from my house. And even though it's not too far from my house, I usually only go check it out like once or twice a year, if that. And that was my once for this year, to go get a small little bit of water out of it to show, like, hey, this is an active sphagnum bog. Here's how clean the water is. And the answer is, it's lighter color than Lipton green tea, which is already slightly watered down. So it's very barely a shade of brown, and it's extremely clear, has very little in it whatsoever, and everything is generally settled. Because of that, that slight yellow brownish is just the humic acid that sphagnum's releasing. So if you have no concept or awareness of what that level of humic acid is, you shouldn't be trying to replicate that environment in your home until you have a lot more experience with what the carnivorous plants want in terms of water quality. I hope this makes some sense. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you on the next one.